Getting money in Terraria isn't too hard, especially if you're using one of the few glitches out right now. But what's not so easy is getting 1 billion copper coins. So, in this video, I wanted to see how long it would take to do exactly that. Spoiler alert, it was not quick at all. So first, let's figure out how we're gonna go about getting the 1 billion copper. Glitches are out of the question, so no crystal shard glitch, since it would only take an hour or so to get 1 billion copper coins, which really only leaves us with farming something. But what farm would be the fastest? While I'm sure someone is writing a comment explaining the most optimized farm possible that can produce 1 platinum per second, I wanted to try this out using a basic farm everyone can make without having to know everything about how the game works. So the fastest way I could think of doing this is to make a jungle ocean money farm. But that's gonna require 2 items that have pretty low drop rates, which are the slime staff with a 1 in 10,000 chance, and the lucky coin, which can range from at best a 1 in 200 chance, and at worst a 1 in 4,000 chance. The slime staff can be dropped from any slime at any time in the game, but the lucky coin is only dropped by enemies in the pirate invasion. So we will at minimum need to beat the wall of flesh to get into hard mode. And speaking of bosses, I'm only going to do the ones I have to do so I can do this as fast as possible. So I won't be doing ones like King Slime, unless it spawns naturally, since it won't help me make long-term money. Now that we got our plan down, we can jump into our new world with our freshly made character and get started. The first thing I obviously had to do is make 2 houses, so that way we can get the merchant to move in and start selling things. Then after that, I got to work on looking for some decent loot to hold me over until beating the wall of flesh, which is where I got super lucky and ended up finding a slime statue. Normally this wouldn't be too useful, but because I needed a slime staff for the farm, I decided to rig it up to a naturally spawned trap and start farming slimes. But after 1,000 slimes and no slime staff, I decided to move on and keep working my way down to the underworld. Along the way though, I ended up finding an Eye of Cthulhu spawner, so I went ahead and beat that to get some of its loot, and then got back to looking for some good loot while also making my way to the underworld. And along the way, I ended up finding an enchanted sword and a finch staff, before finally reaching the underworld. At this point, I thought I could possibly handle the wall of flesh, so I waited until I eventually got a voodoo guide doll, and then started the fight. But I ended up dying about halfway through, so I decided to go with Plan B, which stands for bee grenades. Queen Bee isn't a boss I have to do, but because it has a great summoner weapon and armor, alongside bee grenades being overpowered, I decided it will help us get through the next few parts of this playthrough easier, alongside helping out a bit with the farm. The only issue is, to get enough bee grenades and the summon weapon, I had to beat 4 queen bees, which took up quite a bit of time. But once I was done, I had everything I needed for the rest of the game, besides the money farm related items. So, after selling all of the extra items I had left over, I was finally ready to go back and try to fight the wall of flesh. This, of course, meant I had to wait what felt like forever to get another voodoo demon. But once I did, I quickly threw it in the lava and started spamming my bee grenades. But I quickly ran into a problem. The platform I made wasn't long enough. So towards the end of it, I had to start doing some climbing, which slowed me down enough to where I eventually got caught by the wall of flesh and was thrown into a pool of lava, which killed me not too long after. But luckily, it happened just at the right time, as my bee grenades were able to finish off the wall of flesh. Now that I was in hard mode, it was time to start working on getting the lucky coin, which was most likely the longest part of this challenge. I made a little box in the ocean to easily farm enemies that had the chance to drop a pirate's map, but that didn't make it go any faster. Especially since I had to beat the pirates' invasion 5 different times until I eventually got the lucky coin. But none of those 5 invasions dropped their own map, so each time I had to go back to the ocean and pray for a new map to drop, which took roughly 4 hours in total. But I did end up getting some mechanical boss spawners, alongside a good bit of money and a gold ring, so the time wasn't totally wasted. After finally getting the lucky coin though, I then had to decide on how I was going to go about getting the last item I needed for the money farm, the slime staff, which has a 1 in 10,000 chance to drop from slimes. I needed a faster way to make the slime spawn in, rather than me just jumping over and over on a button. So the first option I had would be to beat Skeletron, find the mechanic, and set up the slime statue to a timer. But the other option was much easier. I just needed to have a little bit of luck on my side, which is trying to fish up a frog's leg so I could continuously jump without having to press the spacebar for each jump. So since I only had a small amount of bait, I decided I'd try for the frog's leg first. And if I didn't get it with the bait I had, then I'd go for the other option, since it didn't require much luck. But luckily, I ended up getting the frog's leg rather quickly. So after this, I went back down to the little slime statue setup I had, and was able to continuously hold the jump button down and wait for the slime staff to drop, which took forever. But I did finally get it, after killing roughly 7,000 slimes. Now that I had the lucky coin and the slime staff, I was finally ready to go make the big bucks at the money farm. But I had to build it first, which was pretty tricky since I had no luck in getting jungle seeds. This was taking so long, in fact, I ended up having to go to some mushroom biomes and get their seeds, and then throw them into Shimmer to turn them into jungle seeds. But after I had enough to get the jungle growing, I went over to the beach and got to work. I first started layering the ocean floor with mud blocks so the jungle seeds could grow, and then built the tiny building that I'll actually be in for the farm. But once I got done with both of those, I had to wait for the jungle to grow in enough to start spawning in enemies, which painfully took about an hour since I barely had any seeds to start out with. Finally though, after about 15 hours of work, I was ready to start using the farm and become a billionaire. This process was almost entirely AFK. So, aside from having to stop once right after starting to move in an NPC I could sell stuff to, it was just me sitting, collecting coins, and selling off everything in my inventory once it got full. And while this was for sure the easiest part of this challenge, I quickly realized it was gonna take me an extremely long time, since I only had 30 out of the 1,000 platinum after a few hours, but I was committed to seeing it through. And because it took so long, I'm just gonna quickly break down the rest of this challenge. Starting with 20 hours into it, where I only had just over 100 platinum coins, which is where I went to sleep, but left my PC running overnight for the first time. Starting on day 2, after a total of 30 hours, I only had 170 coins sadly. And after leaving my computer on for another 12 hours, for a total of 42 hours put into this challenge, I had 250 coins. So we were still nowhere near our goal. Fast forward to 70 hours into this challenge, and I only had 448 coins, and at this point, I was really starting to regret ever trying this challenge. By now, I'm sure you're getting the picture that it was a much slower process than I originally thought. So, skipping over a great deal of time to finally get to the point of this video, after 173 hours in total, I finally reached a total of 1 billion copper, which, when converted in your inventory, is 1,000 platinum coins. Now, you may be asking yourself, what did I actually do with all this money? Maybe use it for the coin gun so I never run out of ammo. Or use it to keep reforging my weapons to get the best possible builds of the strongest weapons. Or just use it like a normal person and buy things from the NPCs. But all of those ideas are wrong. I actually spent way too long placing every single copper coin on a fresh map to see what a billion placed coins would look like. But I quickly realized that wasn't possible, since large worlds only had 20 million tiles. So instead, here's what 500,000 copper coins look like on a small world. And that wraps up this challenge. My next 3 videos will most likely take a little bit longer than normal to come out, because 2 are full playthroughs of a mod, and the other is a long video that's a collab with Waffle Time. But I'm hopefully gonna have all of them out by the end of the month. But I'll still be uploading shorts like normal in this time. Thanks for sticking to the end. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And as always, make sure to have a wonderful day.